Hello people and people like things. Today we're going to be learning how to make a giant sword forge kiln furnace thing. Sorry in advance about the air conditioner, the cicadas, and just being grouchy in general. It's been hot. Water heater. I got this for free from a friend who had to replace theirs. Basically, I have to take all the outside skin off and take off this whole heating assembly because it's worthless to me. Because that's what burnt out anyway, so yeah, I basically just gotta take the whole thing apart, and I'm gonna have to deal with a lot of fiberglass. I hate dealing with fiberglass. You can see the plants and stuff that grew over in there. Start by taking off all the little annoying bits. I should probably use a ratchet, but I don't know if I can get the right head size. I think this is metric. Okay, that comes off. Not quite finger loose. Hopefully, this thing will pop right off. I'm pretty sure it's glued on the inside, but, well, we'll see. It seems to be coming. Gotta make sure it's in this camera for reasons. It is glued in spots. I should probably take off these little rubber gaskets, but I wouldn't even begin how to figure that part out. I am not a water heater technician, despite the fact that I like to use them for parts. Tanks, anyway. Fiberglass. I'm a blacksmith, I hit things. Oh, look, I got the gasket off pretty easy. Okay, foam. Well, that was easier than the other one. Now here's the heater assembly. I don't know how that goes together, so don't know if you can see this on camera, but it's a mess of wires and stuff. So it's going to take a bit of a process to find the connections and who am I kidding? Now you can see the tank is exposed, at least from the bottom end. Now I just gotta figure out a way to get the outer skin off without getting too much fiberglass everywhere. Yeah, I hate that stuff. Ew. Just ew. Whew. Like gutting a giant metal fish. Even though I'd swore I'd never do that again. Mecha shark! Great news! Only the bottom half is filled with fiberglass. Bad news, this thing is covered in foam, which means it's basically glued to the outer skin. Why don't you just leave the foam, you may ask? Well, well, for one thing, it would melt, because I'm going to heat this thing to like 1500 degrees plus, and that's only designed to keep water warm. Anything else would be destroyed. I got to get that metal thing off, which may involve some bad language. So, spot cut. When all else fails, cut it in half so you can get a better angle on it, and then hit it with a hammer until it comes undone. Dang, this thing's clogged. I wonder if this thing stopped working. In case you ever wanted to see what the inside of, I think this is the thermostat control for the water heater looked like. Here it is. Just dissected. This is going to the dump. Be recycled. I'm big on recycling. Why do you think I'm using a giant freaking used water heater instead of buying a heat treatment? Aside from the fact that I'm kind of cheap. This is not good for your back. Don't process it home. Quarantine. Quarantine. That stuff's itchy as hell. Don't touch it with your bare flesh unless you want to scratch for days, but you can't get to it because the fiberglass is burrowing to your flesh. I've installed insulation in walls, attics, and worked with water heaters before, incidentally, and it never, ever, ever, ever ends good. One stripped water heater tank. Okay, next step is cutting off the top. I was considering just trimming all the pipes off and leaving this thing because here. As you can see, it's pretty good size for quenching broadswords, but unfortunately, I make machetes that are wider than this, and I also make curved things, so wouldn't be able to heat treat them in that. But I guess I will keep this pipe around so that I can use it for that later. But basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off the lid and then flip the lid upside down, and that's my heat treating chamber. Also gonna cut a thing in one of these parts. I'm thinking, where is it? Where is it? Right here. Right here. Thinking about cutting right there. And that's where the propane blower will go. Let's jump to it. In case your cords have a habit of yanking out, you can do that. Ugh. Ugh. Water heaters are gross. There we go. I suppose you're wondering why I'm cutting right here instead of like in the middle. Well, For one, heat rises and this thing's going to be standing. Why is this thing standing? So I can hang a sword down in the middle and it will be equally heated on all sides, because if you lay something like on a flat piece of metal like this, it will conduct heat away from the sword and that will cause it to warp. And trust me, warp swords take a while to fix. The other is there's a freaking hole right here, might as well get rid of it. And the other is I have to cut off the top, which will prevent me from making any kind of thing until I got like a latch or something. And I need to cut off the top because later I plan to upgrade it with some insulating wool. But right now I'm just doing more of a proof of concept thing. There goes. Hello, anyone home? Like Black Widow spiders? Okay. After a couple days of my tent falling down and having to fix it, about a week of getting sick, and a couple more days of I don't feel like doing crap, let's get back to work. Now, if your grinding wheels wear out too quickly on you when you plunge cut all the way through, you can lightly score the edge and then break the thing apart with a chisel. Now, I don't like to do this because it leaves a razor sharp little burr all over, but I'll just use the grinding stone wheel, this thing, to smooth it all out. So yeah. Also, I gotta separate this tube, which is going to be a pain, so yeah. Okay, this is a bit thicker than I expected, and I thought this thing was pressure fit on. Nope, it's welded solid. So I'm going to have to cut all around with like a skill saw, like that. And hopefully the end will pop off, because it won't come off right now because there's a solid tube in the middle. I mean, I could theoretically like reach in there with a skill saw and saw the tube in half. Maybe I should do that. Nah, even if I could get it all in there, I wouldn't be able to saw the other side without sawing another hole, and I don't want too many holes in this thing because then heat will escape. If I cut a hole at the bottom, that will let me put this thing on its side and use it sideways every so often. And I do need to get the top off anyway, so yeah. Okay, basically I used the angle grinder head, the thing that's for grinding, not necessarily cutting, ground big giant notches into the, I don't know what this part's called. I could just say bottom, but I want it to sound more intellectual or something, I don't know. Anyway, basically I ground into the metal, and then I would use this chisel to square out a hole, you know, square edges instead of rounded things, and then I would use the skill saw to cut into the thing. Now when doing this, make sure to put the skill saw flush up against it and move slowly and let the saw do all the cutting. The one thing I constantly forget is curves will snap your two only metal cutting blades into pieces. Luckily, there's just enough distance left for me to use a regular cutting disc head to kind of finagle it. Finagle! Sometimes it will take several tools instead of the one or two tools you thought it would take to finish a project. That's life. It's full of tools. And there you go. There seems to have been some kind of separation here. Once I actually started getting this thing cut. So there might have been like a little ring or something on the inside that was supporting it, which is why it was so hard to cut with just the angle grinder. Well, I'm gonna clean that off and then cut this part off, and I'm gonna clean that out with the hose because all that zinc and stuff makes deadly fumes that will give you something called metal fever. So yeah, there it is. Yep, I was right. And that's what it looks like. Yay! Okay, I cleaned off most of the white crud, which consisted of calcium, lime, rust, lead, you know, all the stuff that makes our water so full of delicious minerals. And yeah, that's pretty much it for its construction. Stop! Steak! As I feared and mentioned earlier in the video, so you can't call me out on it, without stone wool or heat resistant insulation, it doesn't seem to retain enough heat to heat treat the larger knives, and yeah, I'll get back to you when I fix that. Okay, after a little test of the small kiln, I have concluded that I do in fact need the stone wool, which I pretty much knew, but was hoping I could at least do one knife so I could get the video out sooner. But then I started thinking I better show you the whole process, so I got a good bunch of it, which is in the trash bag there, and like fiberglass, it's itchy. Very itchy. So basically, I've come to a couple conclusions. One, it's pointless to have two of these things, so that one's going to the wayside. And two, this thing is too tall for anything I'd ever want to do, because the largest swords I make are just a little bit bigger than that. So why am I wasting time and money putting stone wool in this thing? So I'm going to cut it to about 3 feet tall, which is as long as the longest blades I make. I don't make Zooey handers. Those things are large, man. Sure, I like big, crazy swords, but why would I? Bleh. Anyway, besides it, I could always just put an extra attachment on if I wanted to make a Zooey hander. So basically, I got some stone wool. It comes in a 2 foot wide thing, so I got enough to wrap around 3 foot twice with a little extra, so I could pad the bottom and the top. So yeah, and now conveniently, that sword, which is just a little bit smaller than what my maximum size, is just about the same size as there. You don't actually have to heat treat the handle. Also, I hope this furnace doesn't kick on, because it makes it really hard to record, and I really do need the mow or something. My mind's getting off track here. About 2 foot. Over 3 foot, counting the extra long handle. About, I'm going to cut it to 3 foot. Now I'm going to show you a trick that you guys might appreciate. I'm also thinking about chopping this thing in half, so I could do small knives in half once I cut it to 3 foot, so like 3.5 foot, 2 foot, whatever. We'll see. Okay, here's a neat trick. If you want to cut a round shape, the same distance all the way around, just tie a rope, string, or in this case lumber strap, which I had handy, and it was orange, so it'd show up good on video and show up really well with these crummy, scratched up tinted glasses I gotta replace them. I'm thinking mad scientist goggles. Anyway, just tie it, then measure it all the way around, make sure it's level. So since I'm going for 3 feet, that'll be 32 inches from the bottom. And that's basically all you need to know. And that will make sure everything's level, even if one surface isn't. So once I cut this, this will pretty much be set aside, possibly use it as an extension later on. And then I'm 90% sure, maybe 80 at this point, I'm going to cut this part in half, or have some sort of a thing that slides in so that I could use this as a smaller one too, because I don't want to make two when I could just have one really good one. I mean, sure, there's a redundancy thing, but I don't care. it's mostly level. You can see a few spots where it started to veer to the left and right. That probably happened when my leg caught on fire. Don't know how well that will show up on camera, but be careful with the sparks. Yeah, over there. Anyway, that's level enough for my work. Close enough for government work, I guess, so. Yeah, I already made a joke on it. Yeah, that edge is just worse once I deburred and smooth the entire thing out. Anyways, the tank now measures 32 inches, roughly. But Dread, you ask, weren't you going to make it 3 foot, which is 36 inches? Well, my weird accented friend, I decided to make it 3 foot overall, and once you put the thing there, it eyeballs pretty much on the dot. Depending on what angle you're at, mind you, but still. And all the numbers were just weird when it came to cutting the foam, stone wool, which is 2 foot long, but then I gotta account for the 1 inch to 2 inch gap down there, and then I just decided I'm gonna cut the thing to 3 foot, and then, 32 inches, 3 foot total, once you add the cap on, and then I'm going to just fill it with foam, and then stone wool. Don't mind me, I'm suffering minor heat stroke at this point. And then once the stone wool was there, I was going to trim it, and then use that to fill in the gaps. But Dread, you ask again, didn't you want a smaller kiln for your smaller knives? Well, yeah, but I have another plan. Basically, I'm going to make something that will fit down in here, and basically block off the top part. Hopefully. If not, I'll just bear with it. Now, if you excuse me, minor heat stroke. Next step, find or make something that looks like a pair of handles. Then drill some holes. Get mad at the air conditioner for turning on right when you start to record. Make sure they're just a little bit smaller than the handle for a tight fit. Adjust if needed. Next, echo. Next, echo. Drill some little holes that line up with the handle part things. Take some wire. Come on, get in there. Take your clippers and ignore the screaming of children. Whoops. Take your clippers on your completely different colored piece of wire and this would be easier if I wasn't holding a camera. Yes. You. Clip them off as short as you can. Different color bugs me. And solid as a rock. Next, drill 4 sets of 2 holes in each of the 4 corners, and then take a, yeah, I'll show you. Riveting, old chap. Well, there's the entire assembly. It has a hole for the propane. It has a lid with little flappy things on the sides to keep the lid from falling off when it's scorching hot and burning off your foot or something. It has handles for carrying it around. It has a tank. Now all I have to do is put the stone wool in it, which I may or may not do on camera because that stuff's itchy and I'm probably gonna have to wear a bunch of gloves and eye protection and a face mask. Quickly before the battery runs out. Here's the outside, which you've already seen. Hands too wet and slippery. There's the inside, nice and insulated. There's the opening. Basically, I just tried to line up the edge and then cut a square. I kind of cut too far there and had to pack some down. And the extra from the lids wound up pretty much exactly measuring this rim here, which is why I mentioned earlier why I cut it to 32 inches total. See, I measure a lot. I measure a lot? What kind of a thing is that? Anyway, oh, and here's the lid. It's just held on by pressure, and this little X I cut in the side. Stuffed a little extra in the corners, just for good measure. So, get on. That is one sword kiln. I may have to edit out butt crack shots, so don't blame me if the footage is very small. And also, the reason why I didn't film it and say what I was doing while I was doing it is because I have to wear face protection, and this is pretty much what I would have sounded like. Yeah, you get the idea. It occurs to me I might have made these rivets out of zinc nails. Hope that doesn't come back to bite me. Okay, battery's running out. Here's the extra, by the way. I'd open it up, but I need to go get some more gloves. Stupid AC. Well, that's what it'll look like, by the way, when I get some more stone wool for large swords, and that's about as long as the longest swords ever made. Well, they're blades anyway. So, there you go. And put all the extra in that bag, and I'll be keeping it in a safe spot. Quarantine. Quarantine! By the way, I broke the chair that I usually put the camera on. It was old and weather-worn, cracked stuff. Quarantine! Okay, I got my table of heat treatables ready to be heat treated. Ready to be heat treated. And here's my setup. Got the propane tank way out here, far away from the actual burning thing. Got my tube of oil and the kiln, which you're quite associated with by the end of this episode. And there are noisy neighborhood children. Yeah, not that I could do about those. Well, that ain't right. There we go. There we go. A little close to the oil, but yeah. Now I gotta let it get the temperature. Might even lower it a bit more. I'd show you the inside of it, but this camera was expensive. Letting it get the temperature is very important, by the way. Bring it down a little. You can see how hot it's getting now, and the heat's going all the way through it, so yay. First up, my little rinky-dink rusty sword here that I use to test things. Okay, here's the end result. They all passed the file test. And they've been annealed. I did that off camera because, well, that's not really interesting. You're just letting them sit at a lower temperature. The one downside is the tang twisted, but that's going to be shaped to a rounded point anyway. But other than that, I'm going to leave this one rough because this is my beater sword. So, there you go. One sword kiln, forge, oven, furnace, hot tube thing. See ya. And I only burned off a little bit of arm hair.